Welcome back to another episode of Jailbreak Overlander. I'm Richie, and this is Jailbreak. And this is another installment of the Overland Journal series that I started a couple of weeks ago. And this is episode 5. Now, if you're just joining us, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and episode 4 will be linked below in the description box. I've been on the West Coast for about 2 weeks. I brought you some pretty good footage, but it's just going to get better and better because I'm heading to the Redwood Forest. I'll be there in the nighttime, I'll be there in the daytime, and I'm going to try to get you footage of the Redwoods like you've never seen before. I have seen some crazy things along this road, and I'm going to share it all with you. So you're definitely going to want to sit back, you're going to want to relax, and you are most definitely going to want to check this out. So it's 10 a.m. Saturday morning. I think today's the 23rd. Tomorrow I'll be gone for 3 weeks. And obviously I'm standing at the base of a massive, massive redwood tree. And hopefully I've done it justice with the video cameras. I think. It's I don't know how you film a tree to give somebody the feeling that they were there, but I tried. So we'll see. But check this out, it's just magnificent. This tree on the side of the road is larger than my truck by a lot. So that clip you just saw was just recorded a couple of days ago, but this is my second time going from Northern Oregon all the way down to the California border again. I videotaped an entire trip to the Redwoods twice because I wanted to make sure the footage gave you the feeling that you were there. Now, going from Northern Oregon all the way down to the California border, not once but twice, I got some serious footage. Here's a quick overview. You may want to hold on. Here we go. So I'm looking for the Oregon Redwood Trail, and like I just said, I'm completely lost. I haven't seen a sign in 10 miles, and then suddenly I come on these nice people, and it turns out they're stuck. So of course, we're gonna try to square them away. I'm gonna try. Okay, so for those that know me, you know that no matter where I am, I can be in the most remote location. If somebody needs help, they end up directly in front of me. So I've driven 9 miles past the sign on the highway that said Oregon Redwood Trail this way. The other thing is, about 2 miles down the road, there's a sign this big that says take a right. And I didn't take it. I drove right to this spot, and if I didn't, these two elderly people, one of them seemed to be a little intoxicated at 11 in the morning. They couldn't get that tire changed out. I changed it out in 10 minutes, and she's on her way down the mountain, just babbling away. So that's my life in a nutshell. At any rate. So here we are. This is the video I promised you last year, but didn't get done. I made it all the way to the Oregon Pacific coast last year, but I never went and seeked out the redwoods. We are on the cusp of the Valley of Giants. I just didn't know it was in California. So I find my way to my super secret camp spot that's near the redwood trees, and I set the truck up for the night. I'm in a beautiful location. You're gonna wait till you see this. It's ridiculous. I set the truck up, pop the top. I got about 3 hours till it gets dark, and then tomorrow it's off to the redwoods. But for now, I've got time, and I'm gonna go check this entire area out. So I'm setting up cameras, and I'm jumping into the water, as I'm known to do. This spot is storybook. This spot is amazing, and about half a mile away from me, I rode my mountain bike down there, and the team from the Discovery Channel looking for Bigfoot or whatever was set up right down there. And as soon as I pulled up here, the first thing I thought is, I feel like I'm sitting in Bigfoot's living room. It was that remote, and it was that unbelievably awesome. So check this out. Even though it's almost nightfall, I can't help but going out and looking for wildlife. Any type of wildlife, whether it's swimming in the water or flying in the sky or slithering across the rocks. I have to look. And I put myself in some pretty bad situations over the years doing that, which usually ends up with me bleeding from someplace or another. But I still do it. It's in my nature. I can't help it, and I don't really think it's a bad thing. I got time to kill, I'm going to the redwoods, and I'm excited. Plus, it was really hot out, and this water helped cool things down rather nicely. And then, I found this little guy, so I was stoked. I need to know if this is fresh water or brackish water. Oh, look at the size of this guy. He's huge. He's a good 7 inches long. He's a big boy. I used to have these when I was a kid. I got them at the pet store. Most people don't know what the pet store is. I don't think they're around anymore. Where'd he go? I don't want to hurt him. Look at that. It's big, right? They're very abundant, I'm noticing. Lots of them. He's hiding under my shoe, isn't that ironic? Well, nighttime eventually came, like nighttime eventually comes. And I got ready to hit the sack, but first I set up a game camera that my father had got me. Now he got this camera so that we could maybe catch mountain lions, or in my case, Bigfoot. But the only Bigfoot we caught was me coming out of my tent at the middle of the night and losing one of my shoes. Kind of apropos, no? It's 7:30 in the a.m. It is Friday morning. and I had this fella watching over me all night. But something I did that I've never done before is I set up this trail camera that my father got me. So I'm just interested to see if it picks up anything. But we'll see. So I'm gonna go do some in-depth redwood forest analysis this morning. That's why I stayed here last night, so I could spend the entire day checking out the redwoods in the local area. I want to find places where tourists don't go. Seeing how I pulled in so late last night, there was a score that I found this spot. This is crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. No campfires. That was the only drawback, but this is insane. Natural beauty. This is the campsite in the morning, and you can see my truck is right there. It was perfect, a perfect little setup. I couldn't have asked for better. But we need to get rolling, so it's time to make me some breakfast. Got the little mosquito thing working because mosquitoes are serious here. And I'm gonna go with my white meat chicken salad with cranberries, celeries, and pecans. I love this stuff. Okay, I lost my spork. Do not tell me I lost my spoon. Somehow lost my spork, man. That's just so not cool. You know what, we'll deal with that later. Because I'm right next to a river and right next to the Pacific at the same time, make sure you tightly tie up your bread if you want it to last a couple days. So I lost my spork, and apparently I lost my spoon. That happens. Chicken salad with cranberries. Ooh, I just sharpened that. Still has oil on it. That knife's so sharp you can taste it. I already went around and got preliminary video with all the cameras and investigated a little bit. Think we might be good. So I finally found the trail, the Redwood Trail of Oregon, and it's a walking trail. So I just walked it, and I brought the Canon EOS R5, so that should get good footage. But I'm a little sad that there's some redwoods. It's a redwood forest, but there's no massive ones left because back in the 1920s they discovered that, hey, look at these trees like we've never seen on Earth before. Let's cut them down. So I just geared the bike up like the Google car, and I'm going to bring it down the trail, try to get you another perspective. It's amazing when people aren't here. It's silent, totally silent. I was way down the trail and I was marveling at the silence and the majesty. And then of course, some people pulled up, saw my truck, and were yammering about it, right up to the point where I walked up to it. I wasn't all that friendly. Actually, I didn't speak. So, there's that. After an incredibly long ride from northern Oregon all the way down to the California border, I finally arrived at the Oregon Redwoods Trail. I'd been looking forward to this for years. And it was a redwood trail, and there were redwood trees there, without a doubt. And it was a walking path, or a hiking path, and it was a pretty decent little path, so much so that after I walked the entire path, trying to get footage to relay to you what I was seeing, I ended up getting my mountain bike and riding through again. But because it's a park, I couldn't do any drone footage. I couldn't really show you anything amazing. So I'm going to show you the trail, but then I'm going to go to California and show you some serious footage, because I went and found a place where there were redwood trees, but there were no restrictions. And I actually got amazing footage like I've never seen, and probably like you've never seen. But here's the Oregon Redwood Trail as they presented it. So here you go. Out of the entire trail, this was one of the larger trees that I came across, and I was looking for much, much bigger trees. Probably like you are too. According to history, many of California's old-growth redwoods, the world's tallest living things that can grow to more than 300 feet high and live 2,000 years. They were cut down between the 1800s and the 1970s for decks, paneling, and even fence posts and railroad ties, which is why there's only a few left. And fortunately, a lot of people took their own private money and saved these trees, or there wouldn't be any left. It's amazing that people would take a saw or an axe to these things, because when you see the big ones, it's unlike anything you've ever seen before, ever. Now right here, I'm going down the trail on my mountain bike, just trying to give you another perspective, because I was so let down when I got here, because there were large trees bigger than I'd ever seen in my entire life. But I was looking for the redwoods. And fortunately, like I said, this was my first try at the redwood trees. I came back 1 week exactly later and found the redwoods in California. And then I found some private redwood trees, and that's where I got the serious footage. But this is the Oregon Redwood Trail. So this is what it looks like if you ever intend on going there. So I'll shut up and let you look. But right after this, I'm going to follow it up with badass footage, I think. Totally crazy. Okay, that was the Oregon Redwood Trail. Now I'm going to show you some sick redwood footage. I made my way to California. I found the usual suspects, the ones that everybody finds, but I needed to find private redwoods where I wouldn't have any restrictions on videotaping. And it took me an entire day, but I found them. It boggles my mind that people would consider using these things for railroad ties, but they did. By the 1860s, logging had consumed almost 90% of all of these trees, and I can't even begin to explain how insignificant you feel standing at the base of one of these trees. 10, 12, 15, 20 feet in diameter. Some of these things dwarfed my truck to the point where it looked like a matchbox car. And when you're walking through any area where redwoods are, it's like walking on the set of Jurassic Park. It feels like you've gone back in time. I can only imagine that back in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, it would be so much the worse. But fortunately, some people put up their own money, including the state, including the federal government, to finally save a little bit. But the people that I wanted to know were the people that had their own private redwoods on their own private property. And that's exactly who I found, fortunately. So hopefully this video helps out with history at some point. I don't know. So this footage is in no particular order, but anytime you see the drone in the air, I'm on private property. Trying to get the scale and the scope, the height of these trees was next to impossible. But when you look at the drone footage, again on private property, you can see that these things tower over absolutely everything else. And it was amazing to see this stuff. Truly amazing. I couldn't say it more that this was like being on the set of Jurassic Park. The ferns were larger. The 4-leaf and 3-leaf clovers were larger and absolutely everywhere. These things towered over everything by a lot. Now, sadly, some of the best examples of tree stumps and large redwoods were on national park land, and people, left trash everywhere, or they carved their names in these things, etc. Just the usual, people couldn't leave well enough alone. But I did find some pristine spots after wading through ferns, etc. But here's an example of a massive tree that somebody simply cut down and left there 100 years ago. This tree is probably 20 foot in diameter, which is larger than the length of my truck, the width of my truck, and you could stand in this stump. It was pretty amazing, but again, people carved their names in it. Everything was covered with dust because people drove down the roads at 30 miles an hour. It's just zero respect for it. For the most part, but not everybody, but the majority. So after being where everybody else could easily access redwood trees, I hooked up with someone that had a huge piece of property that followed the channel knew who I was and gave me access to his own private little piece of heaven. And I'll tell you what, it was not easy to get to whatsoever at all. But I put it in 4-wheel low and I headed in, and I was able to stay the entire night. Waking up next to redwood trees was something that if I had a bucket list, it would have been on there. But I didn't. But I do now. So how's that? This is phenomenal. I can't describe how privileged I feel to be here. This is an amazing place, and I'll tell you, I've been pulled over for about 25 minutes videotaping at this one location and haven't seen another vehicle, and it's Saturday morning. So that's good and bad, I don't know. But I mean, being surrounded by these things is crazy. They just go up forever. And like I said, I'm glad somebody decided to save some of these and not cut them all down to make things out of them that probably don't even exist anymore. But these things are massive. Look at my truck. It looks like a matchbox car. And this one is particularly beautiful to me because of the ferns and vines growing up the side of it. I think if you climb up there, You might find Jack or the beanstalk. I don't know. One of the two. This is amazing. This is why I came back again, because the first time around, I missed this spot. You'd never find this spot unless you were looking for it, and I wasn't. I found it by accident. So you'll never find this spot unless you're looking for it, or you find it by accident. Now, just for a reference, back home on the East Coast, Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, any one of those places, the tree I'm pointing at would be normal. And then the tree next to it that it's actually growing off of the top of is a small redwood. Just for reference. And as massive as this bad boy is, there's much larger. I just don't know where they are exactly. So I promised the landowner I wouldn't give away the spot. So this was my camping spot amongst the redwoods. It's as much as I can show you because I don't want to break my promise. But it was not easy to get in or out of, but it was well worth it. So check this out. I just left the redwood forest, and while I'm driving, I can hear a little noise. You know, I got all this on the back. I've got the mountain bike rack on the back, but I heard a noise. So I pulled over in somebody's driveway, at the end of the driveway, and I checked the front suspension, I checked the steering stabilizer, I checked the upper controls, lower controls, I checked all the tie rod ends, I checked everything. And I'm driving, and I can still hear the noise. I can't figure out what it is. So I pulled over in the redwood forest at this little turnout and started looking even harder and found this. You see the upper bolt to my brake caliper that's gone? Yeah, that can be a problem. But fortunately, I carry spares, so I gotta get into it. Unbelievable, but I heard it right away. This is my Blue Ridge Overland gear tool bag that's gotten so much use, it's ridiculous, and this thing is held up big time. So after setting up precariously close to the side of the road because I had no choice, I busted out my tools, I busted out my spares, and I busted out some Loctite and put everything back together again. And it's amazing because the day prior I had just released a video saying, always listen to your vehicle. Any squeak or rattle that shows up or pops up, I stop and investigate. And fortunately, my brake caliper was about 4 more threads away from falling off completely. And I caught it just in time. Unbelievable. Well, that was my redwood video, and I'm making this, editing this, and uploading this from the road. So it's not optimal. But this is the best that I could do on short notice. The next video is going to cover Mount St. Helens, and you're going to want to see that because I was there while they were doing a search and rescue for a lieutenant in the United States Army that sadly they ended up finding dead. I had no idea this was going on while I was at Mount St. Helens. And you're going to see me lose a really expensive drone, which sucked, but it happens at any rate. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and I will try to return the favor. I am out.